What's going on, everyone? Jack here from Afchrome, and I've got a couple of Pavo Picos. This is the one that you're probably most familiar with. It has the DJI O3 system, but you can also build a Pico with Walksnail or an air unit, original air unit. So I did that. I built it with Walksnail. I wanted to see, how does this Walksnail system compare? How's the camera on this guy as compared to the O3? Is this potentially a little indoor cinewhoop that you might use? You know, if you don't have DJI, what about Walksnail? I also thought it'd be interesting to compare it to, you know, I've got an HDZero quad. Now this isn't a Pico, but it's about the same size, 2S drone. And you know what? What about a good old analog drone about the same size? And how do those guys all stack up to really the best cinewhoop you can get, the DJI Avata? So I flew these 4 quads both indoors and out so you could see what the footage looks like coming from their camera. I also did a comparison between DJI Walksnail HDZero and how that feed looks in your goggles. Link to that down below if you want to check that out. But here we're going to focus more on the cameras and the flying of these drones, specifically the Pico. And do you want a Pico? Do you want a larger cinewhoop? Or do you actually just want a tiny whoop? We'll try to figure that out for you. Stay tuned. Okay, so first, what is the Pavo Pico? It's a drone kit built by BetaFPV, and they actually designed it so you can put this DJI Air Unit O3 on there. But this Air Unit is pretty expensive, and if you don't have DJI, you could, of course, opt for a Walksnail. I'm sure you could put an analog or an HDZero on there, but I don't think that's something you want to do. Now, this is a Walksnail Pavo Pico that I built, and I just basically took the kit. I took apart a Mobula 7 HD, similar motors, and then I added the brand new Walksnail system with their good camera on there so that I can kind of compare how does that look when you're looking at this DJI O3 system. So first, let's take a look at the Pavo Pico with the O3. Now we're recording on board, and you can stabilize it on board if you want with Rocksteady. That's what I'm doing. Okay, so we're just going to do a little cruise around the house. This is the Pavo Pico with the DJI O3 Air Unit. I'm recording at 4K 60 frames a second, and I do have the Rocksteady on. I have this at basically the settings you would probably use if you were going to use it to record, you know, say flying around a house. Now we're going to transition to flying outside. Same settings, same scenario. And I think it looks a little bit better outdoors, and that's going to be the case for most cameras. You'll find that you know, maybe bigger platforms will handle the wind a little bit better, but this does a nice job. And the video feed coming back to my God, it's really darn solid, absolutely the best of the bunch. And, you know, I did a video on that. That's not this, right? This is just a look at the cameras, and are these usable as Now we look at the Pavo Pico with the Walksnail. I'm also recording this on board, and I could stabilize this in post, it just doesn't have that built-in stabilization. All right, so now I'm flying the Walksnail Pavo Pico. Now I built this thing from scratch from an old Mobula 7. So yeah, I could probably tune it a little bit better. And yes, I could use gyro flow to stabilize this footage a little bit more, but that's not built in. So, you know, I wanted to show this as it is. And maybe that's a video coming up on how to use gyro flow to make your footage look a little bit better. A little peek in the mirror at the little Pavo Pico. Oh, kind of saw it there. Now we're gonna, little rocky start there. We're gonna transition outside with the Pavo Pico with the Walksnail seeing a little bit of jello. I think, you know, maybe an ND filter might help. Maybe a little bit better of a tune might be helpful. But these tiny little quads just aren't going to do great outdoors. Let's take a look at the HDZero coming out of this guy now. It's not going to record on board. The recording actually here is done in my goggles. And yes, I left the OSD and all those things on there. I could remove them if I so chose, but I didn't because you know what? You're really not going to use HDZero professionally as a feed. I suppose if I wanted, I could, you know, grab a camera like this. This is the Caddx Peanut Insta360 Go. There's 3 different versions of this, but really these drones are still probably a little bit small for that. Okay, so here we are looking at the HDZero. Some people say that the HDZero feed is just a little bit better than analog. Well, we're going to compare it to analog here in just a second. But yeah, no, this isn't really going to be usable footage. You can see, you know, the breakup. I can't record this on an SD card or on the drone. I have to record on the goggles, so I get some of that breakup coming through in the signal. Plus, this is a tiny whoop, so it's actually a lot harder for me to fly slow. I just want to kind of rip around my house. That's what I'm used to doing here. See, I kind of sped up there. Now I'm outside. Again, nice picture, but you're going to see the breakup here in just a little bit. You're going to get that when you have to record in the goggles, so it's always better to record on board if you can. Now when it comes to analog, I love flying analog, but it certainly isn't going to cut it in terms of video, usable video footage. Okay, so here we have the analog camera, you know, just for comparison's sake, a little red on the corners, that is a little camera protector TPU that we had printed to keep the camera safe. But yeah, it's just, you know, it's just not going to be usable. You absolutely would have to add a camera for this to be usable footage, and then, you know, I would certainly go bigger than something this small. There you are, see a tiny little thing in the mirror. And you're not going to be surprised when you see the Avata footage and how super clear and crisp and really how good it is. Okay, so now we have the DJI Avata, and this thing is just so smooth. It's bigger, right? It's got a 1-axis gimbal. It really isn't a fair comparison. You know, it's twice the price of the most expensive other option, which would be, you know, the other Pavo Pico, the O3 unit. Plus you got to get the goggles. You know, the full setup with this guy is going to cost you close to $1,000, if not more, depending on which version setup you go with. So yeah, of course it's going to be better. And you can even put another camera on here. Some people do that, but you know, I think this camera is good enough for most applications. As we transition outside, you're going to see, yeah, it's bigger. It's going to handle the wind better. It's really smooth. It's got a good picture, good color. It's a good drone. It just is. It's also more expensive, so you have to keep that in mind. All right, so here we're gonna do a quick side-by-side. I've got 5 different drones up in the air here. No, I didn't fly these simultaneously. I just looped the footage here. Pavo Pico with O3 on the left, Pavo Pico with the Walksnail on the right, HDZero on the left, analog in the middle, and the that DJI Avata on the lower right. Comes down to it, I probably am not going to bother using this Walksnail here in the Pavo Pico. I'm actually probably gonna move this to, probably a 5-inch drone or something like that. It's a great picture, looks really good, but in terms of usable video footage, it's just not there. I'm certainly gonna have to add a camera, probably something like this, probably something a little bit better than this, and then this thing's just too small for that. Now, I do think that the Pavo Pico with the DJI O3 air unit, that footage is definitely usable. Still gonna be not quite on par with the DJI because I do have a 1-axis gimbal here. Now, in terms of flyability, these Picos, they're okay for slow cruising, but you don't want to fly them in acro. They're just no good. You want a traditional tiny whoop for something like that. These tiny whoops just fly so much better with the weight kind of centered here. These just don't perform well, so slow cruising, tight spaces, yes, this is doable, but if you want something just to kind of rip around, you want one of these. I think if the props were a little bit bigger, maybe that'd be useful. Now, in terms of indoors, I still am gonna go with my Avata. I'm gonna throw on these little prop bumpers, but it's good indoors, it's good outdoors, and I think the O3 Pavo Pico will do the job in certain situations. Just because it's so small, I can fly it over people. It's less than 250 grams. It's 100 grams. Is a usable tool in certain situations. I just don't think the video footage coming out of the Walksnail is quite there yet. Pretty good, just not quite there. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. If it was, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. We got more drone stuff coming your way. Good luck, everyone, and happy flying.